well, you know, it's not quite ready to put in production. You still have to do this and that, little changes here, maybe a little bit of refactoring, and maybe a little, you know, there is one defect that was postponed that you have to fix. Or maybe you found yourself in a situation where the person you thought you've done everything you were supposed to do, but at the end, your boss tells you that it was not enough. Oh, those moments really hurt. Customers complaining, your boss scolding you, sleepless nights, and God, the emotional draining. You put your heart into the work. So why are you struggling to meet the expectations? If this sounds familiar, chances are that you and your team are not aligned to producing the results that meet the expectations. It's upsetting customers, it's frustrating the team, it's making you feel like what you're doing is not good enough, like you are not good enough. But neither of these things are true. You just need to align the effort of the team to achieve those results. In this presentation, we'll talk about common problems that companies face. We also see some examples of companies that successfully use the definition of done. We will talk about why the definition of done is important and how to build one so you can achieve the results and meet the expectations. But before we move on, let's see what's the definition of done for this webinar. So would you please share with me what are your expectations? What do you expect to get out of this session? Mike, please unmute the people that want to express their expectations.
Yes. We are in webinar, and if someone wants to say something, please just enable your microphone. Or camera will be better. Or maybe we can enable the camera for any person in the public. I think that the problem is the number of persons in the session. Oh, we have Carlos Vidal. Carlos, I'm about to unlock your camera and your microphone, okay? Yes, Mike, it's okay. Great. Carlos, now you can enable your microphone or your own. Great.
Okay. Well, thank you, and hello everyone. Well, my expectations for this webinar, I have my clients, and sometimes I need to advise them in the done definition, or advise them to actually get the things done the first time. That will have a direct implication of the done definition. So I want to get good examples of good done definition and find mistakes that I might have in that aspect.
Great. Thank you, Carlos. Now we have Carlos Elizondo. Cristina, Carlos, I'm going to unlock your microphone and camera. And Carlos, please lock your camera. Great, thank you. Eugenio?
Okay. Sorry for the camera, but I don't have any camera, so no camera for me. Yeah. what I expected to do, as Carlos says, I would like to also learn probably in some mistakes you can be committed when you try to pass this kind of knowledge to your other team member. Try to communicate this, because sometimes you have the definition or you have clearly what you need to do, but in the process to communicate with other teammates, that's when probably that same pace is not working for them. So I will try to learn some techniques to be able to pass this information to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugenio. We have also Claudia Olivares. But Cristina, do you have any problem with the connection? Cristina?
No?
Okay, great. Now, Claudia,
All right.
I'm going to unlock your microphone and your camera, and you can use your microphone and your camera whatever you want.
And see me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone. Well, my expectation for this session is I would like to learn from this research that Cristina has done and apply this learning with my customers and see how can I help them, to have a good definition of done, and then for them to be successful and be able to achieve their goals, and also to avoid poor software by having this good definition of that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Claudia.
Sure.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too, Mike.
Okay. Cristina, can we continue?
Yeah. Yes, excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing this. So what does it mean? For me to be successful with this webinar, I should deliver on the expectations of Carlos, Eugenio, and Claudia. All right. Well, let's see. Am I going to achieve this or not?
Okay.
Good. So let's get this party started.
Cristina, we are not able to see your presentation.
Oh, okay. What do you see?
We only see the main screen of Click Meeting.
Okay, got it. Let me share. Okay. Okay. Just 1 second. The Click Meeting application is loading. All right. So I'm going to share. All right.
No, it's working. No, it's not working. No.
Can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we can continue.
You are good to go. Okay. It's already 5:20, so I'll move a little bit quicker. So we'll take the time of everyone. Let's start with common problems and examples of success. A while back, I had a project that involved machine learning. It was our first project working with this technology, and we were very excited about this opportunity. Our definition of done was 100% of tests designed, executed, and defect delivered to the development team. There were literally thousands of tests to create and very little time. So we opted for a data-driven testing approach, and light tests were based on matrices. I cannot tell you how proud we were, because we were able to achieve a very high coverage in the small amount of time that we had and the defects that we found. But at the end, the feedback from the client was bad. You see, our client was the lead developer and the development team. They were scientific people, which like precision, processes, and documentation. And they wanted to see the test plan and the test cases. So our matrix was just not good enough. Nobody told us that we had to deliver a written document with the testing strategy and test cases. So it was not that our defects were bad, where we did not have a good coverage. It's just that they didn't trust our results because we didn't document the work in a fashion that they were used to work with. So should we consider we were successful or not? It is common in lots of teams that there is a misalignment in the done, what done means for each of the parties. And in our case, we only looked at what done meant for us in the testing team, and we didn't make sure that the rest of the team, the development team, the product owner also, had the same understanding as us. You know, I'm sure that if we would have asked, they would have just told us. Another common situation that teams face is that they associate the definition of done with acceptance criteria. Again, a while back, we participated in a development project where the development team had developed a similar project before. We have tested a similar project before. So there was quite a lot of business domain, knowledge of the business domain, and competences in the team. The definition of done that we were running with was everything the user story says it's complete. And 100% of the acceptance criteria pass. The project was supposed to last 3 months, but it turned out to last 10 exhausting months. Now, although it was an agile project, it has such a heavy feeling of a waterfall project going bad. The root cause of all these delays and problems was that the definition of done was insufficient for the level of quality that the client actually expected. The acceptance criteria contemplate the business criteria. They rarely include the quality criteria. You know, the tests that need to be done, the reviews that need to be done to make sure that the code actually does what it's supposed to do and works correctly. Nor it include, you know, everything that needs to be done so you actually consider something production ready. So every sprint, the development team thought it was done because they delivered based on the definition of done, but the product increment was not working well enough for the client to put it in production. Now, the way I've seen the definition of done as acceptance criteria working is when the acceptance criteria are not described in words, but using interactive prototypes. It was a mobile application, and it was not heavy on the business rules, but the fundamental concepts that make such an approach work are interactive and visual. You know, the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words? Well, that's why it worked. And it helped not just the development team to have clarity on what needs to be done, but also the QA team that now it didn't have to understand the whole picture going through, you know, tens of tickets, but actually in one simple prototype, clickable prototype, they could see exactly what is expected to be achieved. other companies found themselves in the situation where, they say we're not done, but we have to release because we promised there is no more time and the client is waiting for it. The definition of done is defined, but no one is actually using it. I understand. However, if this happens to you more than 2 or 3 times, then you have a problem. You are in a trap. So you have to stop the vicious cycle and go fix the root cause of the problem. It's either your sales guy that go and promise unrealistic things, and so go and make sure that they don't do this, they don't promise deadlines or scope of work without consulting you first, or go and fix the process problems that you have, internal problems, processes, competences, environmental, just go and fix those. Ishikawa is a great tool to find the root cause. The best use of the definition of done is not as a checklist at the end of the sprint, but as part of a primary aim the team is pursuing. It is the desired outcome. The definition of done should be a guide of the work. The estimates, the planning of the work, bring clarity, who should do what, who should be involved when, what everyone should be doing, how should the work be done so it's considered complete. So every time you are not done at the end of the sprint, use this opportunity to find out why. What's the root cause? You'll also find development managers out there that think that processes are limiting people's freedom. And in the spirit of keeping processes simple, they consider the definition of done is, just a piece of a process, and it's not needed, and because it's not a deciding factor if things work or not. This thinking could work as long as you do not have this symptoms. Custom questions back and forth, passive stabilizing builds, delays, and customer complaints, or the ones that hurt me most is sleepless nights and working weekends. The irony is that if you have a clear definition of done, you have a clear goal. And you will not need a lot of processes, as the people will have clarity on what is expected of them and what do they need to do to achieve it. Another common problem teams face is when the definition of done is not aligned with the company's goals. Do you remember the Facebook famous mantra of move fast and break things? Well, Facebook goal back then was to grow fast and to become the multi-billion company they are now. They succeeded, and what they wanted was speed. This mantra had a huge impact on the development community in general, because it said that it's okay to knowingly leave bugs in your product as long as you ship code fast. Well, he realized that over time, that bugs that they left lurking in the system were slowing them down, and they were not achieving the speed they were looking for. So in 2014, Zuckerberg defined a new goal that they will be able to fix all major bugs within 48 hours. What do you think their definition of done is now? Let's see another example when the definition of done is not aligned with the development manager's goals. We had this client where the development manager measured the development team by the number of features that they released and the number of releases that they made. Their definition of done was ticket is done if code reviewed passed, quality assurance passed, regression plan linked. However, they often had defect density of 50%. 50% of tickets got rolled to the next sprint, and it was a constant hassle to stabilize a release. And all because the development manager measured the number of releases, not the quality of the release. This led to a strong incentive for the people in the team to move fast, even when breaking things. You know, it's just human nature. We all want to look good in the evaluation at the end of the year. Can you blame them? This is an example of when the definition of done is aligned with the goals of the company. This example comes from DataKeeper, which is Tesco's smaller brother. They're a small company with users that are old ladies, no tech savvy, and these ladies just want to get their work done. DataKeeper is competing with free software. So their goal is 0 complaints from the users. Given these high quality expectations, they designed the development process so they consistently deliver upon this challenging goal of 0 complaints, and to become the best option on the market, even when they are not free. For this process, for every critical step of the process, they defined what complete means. And here is their definition of done. I put it here, it's a bit long. What I want to stop and talk about is are these 2 last bullet points, where after they checked, you know, every single checkbox in this checklist, at the end they will leave they will not declare the project done until they had 2 weeks in a row with 0 complaints from the customer. Only then they declare it done. No wonder they became the preferred tool of those old ladies. Now, let's dig deeper into the definition of done. What does it mean to be done with our work? You know, in testing, we can be very creative and write lots of tests to test an application. I once talked to some folks at the company that developed a mobile application that had 1,000 test cases. 1,000 test cases for a mobile application. No doubt those test engineers were highly creative. However, you know, what happened in reality is that during the sprints, they only used about 200 of those test cases. And over the course of several sprints, those 1,000 test cases became obsolete. So they were overdone. They produced more stuff that was not required and was not used. Basically, they wasted time. Or we could be underdone. We all live to deal with bad requirements full of loopholes and avoid the frustrations that comes with that. You know, when you are underdone, the people that are going to use your work will be missing pieces, will be or could be blocked waiting for you, will need a lot of back and forth communication with you because, you know, the pieces that don't match. So it will be a lot of frustration around. What does it mean to be done with our work? Well, in reality, there are 4 definitions of done. My definition, your definition, their definition, and the standards. Each one has its own understanding. And if you don't get them to align, you will never be done. Something is not necessarily done when you think it's done. It is done when we can check all the boxes of all the people in the team, or the team agreement. So when we discuss about the definition of done, it's not a discussion about how to write better code or what is the best testing approach. It's more of a discussion about setting goals, negotiating to align everyone around the goal, and act as one. The definition of done was widely spread by the creators of SCRUM through their guidelines and the certification program that they have. However, it applies to whatever agile flavor that you implement, either if it's Kanban or Essential Safe. The concept even applies when working with waterfall. So let's see what SCRUM considers that done means. They say that everybody in the SCRUM team must have a shared understanding of what the word complete means for a product increment. So it means agreement and transparency. The purpose of each sprint is to deliver increments of potentially releasable functionality that adhere to that SCRUM definition of done. So each increment is additive to the prior increments and thoroughly tested, ensuring that all increments work together. So the PO can choose to immediately release it. This definition guides all the work from the planning of the sprint, the estimates and how many items do we select to put in a sprint, to the deployment into production. Starting a sprint, every team member has to have a clear definition of done. Not just the developers, but from the product owner, the client, and the release guy, and of course testing and dev guys. The definition of done is used to assess when work is complete. Assess when your work, my work, the work of all of us is complete. So it should tell everyone what success looks like. So it is important to us because it eliminates assumptions. It forces people to talk about those assumptions and eliminate the subjectivity. This is why it is a critical tool for us at Tesco, because our customers do not want anything that we're not done well. And everything that we do, ads takes a little bit more of time and more money, and we have to talk to our customers and get their agreement that they want to pay to have this done, and they want to pay to have it done properly. So done for us is not just a list, it's ongoing conversation with the customer. Another reason it is important because it is forcing everyone to spell out their expectations and define what success looks like. It is a formula for success and what we need to do to be successful. Our clients don't want to waste their time on projects that will fail at the end. They are as interested as we are for the project to be successful. That's why they hired us, to solve the problem, not to generate new ones. So it's just a matter of asking the right questions and spell out that end goal. Knowing how to get clarity on the definition of done and building good definition of done will make you a better problem solver. People don't get paid just for what they do. They get paid for the size of the problem they can solve for other people. I'll repeat this. People get paid for the size of the problem they can solve for other people. This will make you a better problem solver. And people will seek you to get their problem solved, which makes you more valuable, which brings your company more money and you more salary. Well, all this looks good on paper, but the reality is a little bit more complex than that. Competences play a big role. Competences are about understanding the problem, having the business domain, knowledge about the business domain, and having experience doing the work. The truth is usually not all the team members have all this knowledge and skills. Let's look at an example. This client has a small team that has the right competences. Their results are astonishing. Since our Tesco team stepped in and implemented testing strategy to achieve 0 customer found defects, the speed of the development team doubled. This year, they only had 2 customer found defects in 14 releases. Well, their definition of done is the code is well written, refactored, unit tested, has successfully passed testing, has received product owner acceptance, and is ready for user acceptance testing as a potentially ready to ship product. But the reality is usually not all the team members have the perfect competences. And as we say here in Mexico, they don't have enough colmillo. Well, you need not just, it's not enough just to be more specific with the definition of done. You will need to be more specific with requirements. You will need to incorporate code design reviews, test design reviews, frequent code reviews and peer reviews. So someone with more seniority can mentor the younger engineer. And lots of testing. Another key player in this game is the culture of the team and of the company. In companies with culture of lack of accountability, people prefer processes to avoid consequences of failure. So even when one fundamental value of Agile is, individual and interactions over processes and tools, you will need to implement the processes and have a detailed definition of them. On the other side, in companies that have a culture of ownership and accountability, where you'll never hear, I was not told to do so, or it was not my responsibility to do X, lighter processes and simple definition of done are enough. Now, what does it mean to take ownership at work? Taking ownership, it's about taking initiative. We take ownership when we believe that taking action is not someone else's responsibility. It's ours. You as an individual are accountable for the timeliness of an outcome, even when you are working with others. So it doesn't mean that you have the obligation to own a project as would a project manager. And it doesn't mean that you should not involve others. It does mean that you have an obligation to the result of the team. And you have an obligation to act if something it puts in danger, if there is a risk of those results. Maybe you will need more time than actually have, or perhaps you don't have the resources needed to complete the task that you have, or the fix resides somewhere else in the organization. In those situations, taking ownership means bring the problem, the issue forward to someone who does have the time or resources to get it done. Taking ownership tells others that you can trust me to do the right thing. Ownership is a choice. Accountability. Well, this one is tricky because in Spanish there is no good translation of this word. Both accountability and responsibility are translated the same in Spanish, responsabilidad. So it is a little bit more complex to understand. Being accountable is not just about being a responsible person. Being accountable, it's about being responsible for the result. While ownership, it's about initiative, accountability, it's about follow through. Get the things done to the end. It's not just about your goals or your commitments. It's about the acknowledging that your actions actually affect the other team members' ability to accomplish their goals. So when you say, I've got this, accountability means that you will deliver as promised on time within budget. It also means that when you cannot accomplish your task or deliver it on time, or the results will not be as strong or good as you hoped, be honest and proactive with your communication about the situation. By being forthcoming, you respect the impact that you have on your work and you have on the other teammates. It's all in trust. So being accountable tells the others that you can trust me to do what I say I'm going to do. Companies that have such a culture of ownership and accountability combined with the right competences, boy, are a force of nature. They are unstoppable. The definition of them from Michael Bolton caught my attention because it implies a high degree of ownership and accountability. His definition is basically a team declaration that they reviewed the features critically with appropriate depth of thoroughness, and they are not aware of any problems or any risks. Well, I would love to see this in action. Sitting there at the end of the scrum with such a team that has such a definition, and see them declaring such a the achievement of the definition of that. So far, we've seen several examples, some good, some not so good, but I can create a good definition of that. SCRUM.org has lots of material on this topic, and they also give several examples. I picked 3 here: initial definition of done, mature definition of done, and stringent definition of done. They also suggest to take one and adjust it to your needs. But are these the right ones for your team? Definition of done is related to the quality of the deliverables. Done means releasable. So the question is, what does it take for your team to put the product increment into production successfully? The factors that influence your definition are several. If you are building a mission critical software, or you are in a regulated environment, or you have contractual constraints, your users, how tolerant are your user to defects, company goals, the culture of the team, the level of competence that your team has. if it's distributed team, and if you have the appropriate level of processes to support the team to be successful. For a team that is not building a mission-critical software or it's not subject to regulation, a stringent definition of done will feel too bureaucratic. It's funny, the other day I was talking to a friend of mine, and he told me that their definition of done is like a Bible. And he hated it because he is not working for a mission-critical software and no regulation, no contractual constraints, and still he felt it was too bureaucratic, too constraining. For a mission-critical software, like the software, the autopilot for a plane or an online banking system, well, the stringent definition of done is the more appropriate one. So there is no definition that fits all. I know what you are saying now, but this is hard. Well, here's the formula that we use at TASCO. We start with what does releasable mean for the client, wherever the client is, either it's a final client or the product owner. How ask the client what success looks like, find out how tolerant is your client or user to defects, and find out the goals. Once you gathered all this, align the 4 definitions of done. Me, you, them, standards, get everyone at the table and get everyone to agree on what is done. Eliminate the subjectivity, and it's highly probably you'll have to negotiate. Step 3, translate that definition into a checklist. It contemplates a success for each step of the process. So this means you'll have to go and identify what's the process that you need to produce that releasable definition, identify the critical steps, and define what complete means for each one of those steps. Step 4, at the end of the sprint, measure. Find out if you achieved what you were looking to achieve, and if you didn't, use the Ishikawa, find out what's the root cause, and go and fix it. Don't leave there a trap for you for future. Continuous improvement of the definition of done. How will you know you have achieved the right definition of done? Ask for feedback from stakeholders, or use lagging indicators. And here are some examples. Accuracy of estimates. Well, if the team, the whole team, not just development, the whole team is creating accurate estimates and it's consistently delivering upon those, then you have achieved the right definition of done. If you have defects reported by the users, then something you have to look into. Have you achieved the quality goals that were set for you? If not, then go find the root cause. Some food for thought. Clarity on what success looks like and what that means will make you a better problem solver. I will repeat myself. Clarity on what success looks like and what that means will make you a better problem solver. Thank you.
Great. Now, Cristina, we have 2 questions from Denise Rodela and Jose Velasquez. But Denise, Jose, now you are able to speak with all of us. You can unlock your microphone and your camera if you want. Come on.
Mike, ¿me escuchas?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I have a question, but I think it's self-answered because my question was could be different the definition of done between you as a consultant and your customer? I think not, right?
Well, if there is misalignment, you will
Yes.
have that situation. But that's what is important for you to get that agreement. You know, sit with them, have a discussion, and make sure that you get aligned with that definition.
The proper
alignment. Go ahead.
The proper alignment. I mean,
yes,
with the customer.
Yeah, yeah, because you'll never be done.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll never be done.
Yes, and it's crazy because sometimes you are following a moving target because the agreement on done is not the same. So you are targeting always something different than the customer is expecting. Yeah.
Yep.
I understand.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Jose. Now, Denise, we are waiting for you. You can make your question. Seems that Denise have problem with the microphone. And the question is, what about the definition of ready? Can we define definition of done without entry criteria?
Very good question. So the definition of done, it's about the whole thing, right? So it's about releasable, shippable product increment. So the definition of done covers everything, right? While the definition of ready is specifically about the user stories and acceptance criteria, right? It's about having all the input of the process ready. So the definition of ready, it's a piece of the definition of done.
Great. Seems we have another question in progress. Carolina. Let me unlock your microphone. Carolina, if you want, you can speak with us. Now you can enable your microphone and your camera.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Hey, hello.
Hello.
Well, thank you so much for this material. Part of this or my questions are related to because, for example, in my projects, I participated applying the SCRUM methodology, but not always all the teams are aware about definition of done. I mean, I was working before with the SCRUM, but not always I'm not aware for what is definition of done in my project. Probably my question here is that if all the teams need to know what is the definition of done, or how can I be aware? I mean, what should be the next steps here? For example, if I, from the testing side, And if in case that I'm not aware for the definition of done in my project, but I apply in SCRUM, what should be the next action from QA side? I mean, we need to ask, what should be the next action here?
Ownership, it's about initiative. Take initiative. And my recommendation to you is to go and talk to the product owner, go and talk to, I don't know if you have a Scrum Master, go and talk to them. You know, they should have that. And if it's not defined, take initiative and ask everyone, let's get an agreement and let's define one. You know?
All right. Oh,
every member, I'm sorry, just a second, please. Every member of the team should know what the definition of done, because the work is going to be assessed based on that definition. So it's like, you will present yourself to an exam at the end, but you don't know what's going to be the subject you're going to be tested on. So it's better to find out from the beginning, what are you going to be your exam about?
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Carolina.
the question.
Hey.
We have another question from Denise, but we have problems with the microphone. So we have to negotiate the definition of done with the product owner.
Well, to answer this question, the product owner, it could be that it's part of the your company or it's with your client, negotiate comes when there is misunderstanding, where there is misalignment, right? So just first go and ask them what's the definition, and if there is misalignment between what the members of the team think it is, then you will have to get to an agreement. Negotiate comes when things don't align, and there are things that, for example, you see it cannot be achieved. They are asking for too much for the time available, or for what's the size of the team. So then you have to negotiate, right?
Okay. We have one question from Mario Rodriguez. Mario, if you want, you can enable your microphone. Or if you have problems, we can read the question. Okay. And Mario says, Carolina, if you don't have a definition of done, it means that there is an agile pattern related directly to the product owner, and also that means that you need an agile coach urgently. It was an answer to Carolina. Okay. Any comment about it, Cristina?
Yes, yeah. So if you don't have a definition of done, it is you need to work with the product owner and get one. The agile coach, well, it's more of a statement, right? The agile coach, yeah, you can get the agile coach to help you, or you can do it in your team. All depends on the ownership, taking initiative, or it depends on the environment in that company. If it's an environment when you cannot speak up, because not always you can speak up, then somebody else with much more authority should be involved to help with the situation.
Okay. Any other question? Let's see if we have another question. Okay. Jonathan says, thanks, Cristina. It is very useful to comprehend the value of the work done in the IT industry and how we can relate it into the processes of our jobs. Also, thank you for your time and sharing your knowledge. Cheers from Guadalajara. Cheers from
Cheers,
Guadalajara.
John.
Okay.
So before we finished, well, let's assess if I delivered everything that you expected from me and from this webinar, and if I am done.
Oh, yes, you're right.
So at the beginning, several people expressed that what they wanted to take are good examples, find what they're not doing well about their definitions of done, learn some techniques, and learn some mistakes, how they can make a good definition to avoid poor software. And also, my purpose was to talk about common problems, give examples, explain what the definition of done is, and give you a formula on how to build one. So I think I completed everything. I think I'm done. But do you guys think I'm done? Jose says yes. He thinks I'm done. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, you're done.
I was expecting to see someone in the camera, but okay, everything is done. Everything's okay. We have no problems here.
Yeah. Thank you very much for everyone who was willing to participate in our dynamic.
Yes. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Yes. And also, I again, we apologize for the technical issues at the beginning. And thank you for your patience.
Yes. Thank you very much. Before we finish the session, please stay here, and I'm going to finish the session, and you will be redirected to one feedback form. Please complete the form and to receive the feedback and to know how to improve our talks in the future. And maybe my English. It's my first time speaking English with so many persons here. But please.
Awesome. Well, that's the first for everything.
Please fill the form. Okay. Thank you very much, and I hope that we have Cristina in the near future for another presentation. It was a great presentation. Thank you, Cristina. And thank you very much, everybody. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cristina. Thank you.
Thank you, Cristina.